on national television and without hesitation told the American people that he plans to rule as a dictator on day one. This admission is exactly what many Democrats have been warning the American people about for years. And in other breaking news today, former Speaker Kevin McCarthy, a Republican of California who made history as the first speaker to be ousted from the post, announced that he would leave the House at the end of the year, but said he planned to remain engaged in Republican politics. Well, federal prosecutors yesterday accused former President Donald Trump of a long pattern of lying about elections and encouraging violence, saying he sent supporters to the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021 to criminally block the election results. In a legal settlement today, the 10 Republicans who signed official-looking paperwork falsely purporting that Donald Trump won the Wisconsin 2020 presidential election have agreed to withdraw their inaccurate filings and to acknowledge Joe Biden won the presidency and not serve as presidential electors in 2024 or in any election where Trump is on the ballot. The fate of U.S. security assistance to Ukraine rests on the ability of lawmakers to broker a deal on an issue that has eluded their grasp for decades, and that issue is immigration. Senate Republicans blocked a bill today that came to the floor of the Senate that would have provided billions of dollars in aid to the Ukraine based on the Democrats' refusal to agree to provisions in a piece of legislation regarding border security. The latest version of a groundbreaking African American studies course for the nation's highest schools, or the nation's high schools, says students should learn about professional football quarterback Colin Kaepernick and his decision in 2016 to kneel during the national anthem as a protest against racial oppression and police brutality. The Biden administration will further delay a long-awaited ban on menthol cigarettes after fierce lobbying from critics who warned that a prohibition could anger some Black smokers who favor the products and could hurt President Biden's re-election prospects. Now, the Biden administration is expected to announce that it plans to finalize these federal rules around the ban on menthol cigarettes sometime in March of next year. The officials acknowledge that the process could be delayed still further because of pressure during an election year. And finally, Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama announced that he would lift his blanket hold on military promotions, ending a nearly 10-month standoff over a Biden administration abortion policy that made the former football coach the target of bipartisan ire. Tuberville has now narrowed his hold to the 10 or so promotions at the 4-star rank. He relinquished the hold because he wanted to keep Senate Majority Leader Charles Schumer from bringing up a vote to get around his maneuver. Tuberville did not receive any concessions that he previously demanded, such as a change to the military funding bill to address the abortion policy. This is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, to help me break down all of today's breaking and trending news, is Dante King, assistant professor at the Mayo Clinic College of Medicine and Science, and returning, one of my favorite contributors, Katrina Robinson. She's a consultant and former Tennessee state senator. She's also a political pundit. But before I bring on my guests, and I should mention that in hour 2 today, we're going to be talking about the 4th Republican national debate, the debate amongst the 4 candidates really that are left, other than Donald Trump, who are vying to become the presidential candidate for the Republican Party. This debate, which is not likely to draw the millions and millions of viewers who tuned in when the debates were held on Fox News or NBC. This debate tonight is going to be on a small cable network called News Nation, And by some estimates, it may only draw 3 or 4 million viewers. Many folks have already concluded that Donald Trump, who will not be on that debate stage, is going to be the nominee for the Republican Party. In hour two, I have two of my political pundits, Richard Green and Ed Sanders, are going to help us break down what is likely to happen in the Republican debate tonight, what you should be looking for, who's going to be trying to score points against whom, and what does this debate really mean when Donald Trump has such a substantial lead over all of the parties vying to be the candidate for the GOP running for president next year against Joe Biden? And in particular, we're going to talk about Nikki Haley, who seems to be having a moment, but is that going to be enough to make her the candidate selected by the GOP? Make sure you stick around for hour two. We're going to be breaking down that debate. But before I bring on my guests, here's what I've been thinking about in real time. I spent a lot of time talking about some of the groups that have arisen since Donald Trump was elected president, since Donald Trump has decided to run again for president in 2024. And one of those groups that's gotten a lot of attention is a group called Moms for Liberty. This is a group of white women, predominantly activists, many of them in the South, many of them in the Midwest, who started showing up at school board meetings, started dominating school board meetings, and had some success at getting certain candidates elected to school boards. You know, these were the women making all the noise about banning books, about preventing kids from learning Black history, about preventing kids who are non-binary or who are transgender from being able to authentically express themselves in the school setting. These women started believing that, you know, they had the ability to really influence politics in this country. So they formed an organization called Moms for Liberty. They held a couple of big conferences and basically said to the Republican candidates who are running for president that if you want our support, if you want us to endorse you, if you want us to go door to door and, you know, try to get voters out and to help you get elected presidents, down ballot candidates, you need to basically kowtow to us. You need to come to our conference and prove that you are worthy of our very, very conservative endorsement. Well, Moms for Liberty got pretty rocked in the last elections that we had. Most of their school board members that they endorsed lost. Many of the other candidates, down ballot candidates that they endorsed, lost as well. So, you know, it's questioning whether Moms for Liberty has the kind of political clout and influence that it believed that it had. Well, Moms for Liberty has been rocked in yet another way. There has been a serious allegation of rape that has been lodged against one of the co-founders' husband. And as a result, one of the really outspoken and highly influential members, Clarissa Page, who is from one of the counties in Pennsylvania, has decided that that allegation is so serious that she is cutting ties with Moms for Liberty. She's going to separate from Moms for Liberty. She's going to start her own political party in Pennsylvania so that she can do her own work. And one of the things that is interesting about this rape allegation against one of the Moms for Liberty's co-founders' husband is that he admitted that he had what he called consensual sex with the woman that made the allegation against him. And if that wasn't enough, his wife, the co-founder of Moms for Liberty, one of the co-founders, admitted that she too had sex with the woman who has accused her husband of rape. In fact, the co-founder admitted that her and her husband and this woman had a consensual three-way sexual encounter. Now, why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because Moms for Liberty and groups like that oftentimes are so incredibly self-righteous. They want to impose these very rigid moral, what they call biblical standards on everyone else. And it's not surprising because we've seen this happen over and over again with so many folks like them. While they're telling you what to do, while they are imposing these very rigid, in many ways, anachronistic standards on you, they, in their private lives, are going about their business doing whatever it is they choose to do, whether the conduct, is consistent with the quote unquote moral conduct that they are telling you that you should be engaged in. And here we go again, another example of some self-righteous do-gooder women trying to tell other parents, what their kids can and can't read in the classroom, trying to tell other parents that their kids can't express themselves as non-binary or transgender. And here they are having to admit that they are engaged in a three-way sexual affair. The husband now accused of very serious rape allegations. So important that we not allow these kinds of organizations, these kinds of groups dictate to us what our conduct should be or set any kind of moral agenda for us, for our kids, or for schools across this country. So when you see these people in action, just remember stories like this. And before you attach yourself to them or decide to follow them, make sure you vet them, do your homework, because oftentimes these people are incredibly, incredibly hypocritical and are leading very duplicitous lifestyles. Stay with us when we come forward. More of today's breaking news right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
There's a new sheriff in town.
All right, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, and starting September 18th, I couldn't be more thrilled than invite you to join us for the launch of A More Perfect Union. Weekdays right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Weekdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific Time. That's 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. A More Perfect Union promises to deliver national news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. As KBLA Talk 1580's chief national political analyst, every day you can expect your daily dose of political news of consequence. If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered to be a part of the solution to issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, A More Perfect Union was designed for you. This daily political affairs show will feature notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and ordinary people motivated to do their part to reach beyond today's divisions, to make sense out of news of the day, and offer us all a chance to build a more perfect union. Come on and join me.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like the style, though?
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus.
We are back, and in this hour, we are tracking today's breaking and trending news. And in hour two today, my political experts will join me, and we will be breaking down the fourth Republican debate to see which of the candidates that are still standing, which one is going to score some points tonight. And does any of this matter, given that Donald Trump has such a substantial lead over all of the candidates running for president on the GOP side? But before we get to that discussion about the GOP debate, let's talk about some of the breaking news today. Katrina, it was an amazingly busy news day, particularly on Capitol Hill. Bombshell news coming out that Kevin McCarthy, the one-time Speaker of the House for the GOP, who made history by being the only Speaker ousted in such a short period of time, announced that he is retiring, leaving Congress altogether, and he's not waiting until his term in office expires in I think he comes up in 25. What do you make of this bombshell news that Kevin McCarthy is leaving Congress?
I think it's very smart. Actually, I think it's very smart that Kevin is leaving. I mean, he has set some records, but they're not records that I would want to set. I mean, we're talking about somebody who had, 15 rounds of voting just to vie for the speaker's seat. I mean, he's been in office for 17 years now. He's done his job, not really much of a job, but I think he's headed in the right direction to head home.
But what about the fact, Dante, that the Republicans already have such a narrow margin in terms of their majority in the House? Every vote counts when you have only 4 or 5 votes majority over the Democrats. And now Kevin McCarthy leaving as quickly as he is. There have been some other announcements. The interim Speaker of the House, also one-time interim Speaker, also announced that he was retiring. Do you think this is a little payback by Kevin McCarthy towards the Republican Party?
I think that this is reflective or symbolic of payback, but I also think there's some strategy that he hasn't spoken of just yet. We're a year out from the presidential election, and I think he might even be gearing up to join Donald Trump somehow to help promote his campaign in some ways. There's got to be a reason why he decided to leave this early. I do think that the House Republicans will remain in chaos, so that dynamic won't change. But I'm just wondering where he's headed next.
Yeah, Katrina, obviously as a senior member, been in Congress 17 years, who has been a very fierce defender of Donald Trump. We saw, after January 6th, he went down to kiss the ring, basically invited Donald Trump back into the fold when many Republicans were angry with him about the January 6th insurrection. So Kevin has proven himself to be a very staunch and vocal supporter of Trump while in office. So is there any advantage that you can see that he might gain by being out of office as it relates to any kind of support he might offer to Donald Trump?
Well, the last I heard, there was some tension between Trump and McCarthy. I believe when he got ousted, they had a very intense phone call where McCarthy basically told Trump, "F you." So I don't know if that's where he's headed or not. I mean, I don't think Trump was very happy about him not endorsing his campaign and not expunging his 2 impeachments. I think he's got something else up his sleeve.
Well, you're right about that. There definitely was tension because McCarthy felt like Trump could have intervened, could have stopped Matt Gaetz from calling, to the floor the vote that led to him being ousted. Felt like Trump could have done a lot more to protect his seat as Speaker. And we know Kevin McCarthy has wanted to be the Speaker of the House for years. He didn't just than even Nancy Pelosi, who we know was a very, very effective fundraiser. So I have to imagine that this is a very difficult decision, but I've also seen reports that Kevin McCarthy was very, very angry with his party as it relates to the ouster, very angry that the current Speaker of the House, Michael Johnson, did the very thing that he did, which was voted to keep the government open, and did that with the help of Democratic votes. And when Kevin McCarthy did that, that led to his ouster, and he's been smarting ever since because Johnson does the very same thing and he gets a pass. So be interesting to see, what's next for Kevin McCarthy. He said he's going to stay involved in politics. He kind of gave that standard speech that we hear when folks leave office, but very interesting to see what happens with him. Donald Trump will not be at the Republican debate. He hasn't been at any of them. He did some counter programming, which he's known to do. And that counter programming was a big interview with his buddy, Sean, Hannity over at Fox News. And he made news, which is not uncommon for Donald Trump. And unfortunately, said the quiet part out loud. Basically said, refused to accept the softball questions that Hannity was throwing to him about him being a dictator. What do you make of that, Dante? That interview was quite revealing.
Well, I think that we have to understand historically into the present that whiteness as a politic is a dynamic and a development that functions as sovereign to America. And so within that politic of whiteness, there's narcissism, there is arrogance, and people who feel like they should not be held accountable and have in many cases amongst them within the white community are not held accountable and don't get held accountable for their transgressions. And so this man does not have a filter at all. He has no sense of responsibility or civility because he hasn't had to. And so, people are saying, oh, the filter is off. He's being very transparent about his feelings to be a dictator or lead that way. But I don't think he's ever had a filter, and I don't think he's ever known accountability within and throughout his life. So it's just on brand for who he is and on brand for what we see pervading or pervasively in the white community.
Well, we know, Katrina, that it's not just white folks that voted for Donald Trump. Obviously, the majority of them were, but we know he also got a sizable number of votes from Latino voters, from Black voters, Asian voters, clearly smaller when you look at it proportionate to the number of white voters that he got. But it's just shocking to me, Katrina, that Donald Trump keeps telling us what he's going to do. And it seems like the more outrageous the comments and, the more outrageous the statements, folks just eat it up. They love it even more. What's going on in our body politic? You've been in elected office. Have you ever seen someone to be able to tell you, I've committed a crime, I'm going to commit a crime, I'm going to destroy the democracy, I'm going to be a dictator, and just on and on and on, and their poll numbers go up rather than down?
Something is wrong. No, I will say this. I saw the interview where Trump was saying he was going to be a dictator only on day one, he says. Only on day one.
But you notice, Katrina, Sean Hannity kept trying to get him to say, man, people are worried about this comment. Can you please put this to rest? He kept he literally begging him. He refused.
He refused. He absolutely refused. He absolutely refused to support that notion. But I will say this is a dangerous place that we are in. I mean, anytime someone says on day one, I'm going to be a dictator if you reelect me, I'm going to close the southern border, I'm going to expand oil drilling, I'm going to get revenge on the DOJ, I'm going to get revenge on everybody who's ever sought any retribution against me. It's just, it's sickening to think of that people are actually still supporting this man for his candidacy for president. And on top of that, he is the number one pick for president. How do you have someone who has had so many transgressions, so many criminal charges and accusations, and is blatantly and arrogantly stating to you that he will not rule this country in a manner that it was meant to be governed, and you still want to vote for him? It just doesn't make sense, Areva.
Well, I think it goes to that point of voters who we know oftentimes will vote against their own interest. And this issue, this pervasive issue in our culture of white supremacy and whiteness and maintaining whiteness. Now, no one ever comes out and says that out loud.
That's
People
right.
tell you about, oh, I like his tax policies, I like his immigration policies, I like his toughness on foreign policy. But when you think about the candidates who on the Republican side that have a lot of the same ideologies that he has on things like taxes and the border and immigration and foreign policy, common sense would say, well, why not choose them? You're going to get the same political outcome with them. But the thing that he gives that we don't hear these other candidates talking about is, again, maintaining that whiteness and being that champion for whiteness in a way that we've never, ever seen in this country in the presidential office in our lifetime, at least anyhow. So that's the thing that I guess, as much as we say that, and those of us who study politics and work in politics know that, I think it's still kind of hard for us to accept that so many of our fellow Americans are willing, right? Like 80 million of them, or close to 80 million of them, are willing to put someone in office who says they are going to be a dictator, they're going to destroy our democracy, and they are going to use the office of the presidency. They're going to abuse it, not use it. They are going to abuse that office. Lots more to talk about when we come forward. Got to talk about what's going to likely happen in this debate tonight, the Republican national debate, and so much more of today's breaking news right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
I couldn't be more thrilled than invite you to join us for the launch of A More Perfect Union. Weekdays right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Weekdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific time. That's 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. A More Perfect Union promises to deliver national news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. As KBLA Talk 1580's chief national political analyst, every day you can expect your daily dose of political news of consequence. If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered to be a part of the solution to issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, A More Perfect Union was designed for you. This daily political affairs show will feature notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and ordinary people motivated to do their part to reach beyond today's divisions, to make sense out of news of the day, and offer us all a chance to build a more perfect union. Come on and join me.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like the style, though.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts, These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Areva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Areva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, ma. House shot with a rest bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
The bounce is back.
I'm back, and in this hour, we are tracking today's trending and breaking news. And in hour two, we're going to be talking about the Republican presidential debate, the debate that many folks say at this point really doesn't have any meaning since Donald Trump will not be there, and since he has such a sizable lead over the four remaining candidates running for president. Nonetheless, there could be some interesting news coming out of that debate, particularly given that Nikki Haley seems to be having a moment, seems to be gaining in popularity, has gotten some pretty big endorsements, and lots of folks are pressuring Chris Christie to drop out of the GOP presidential race to support Nikki Haley. So we'll see what the dynamics are, talk about what the dynamics are likely to be between Nikki Haley and Chris Christie, as well as Ron DeSantis. Don't forget about him. Everyone thought he was going to be the replacement to Donald Trump. His campaign has been pretty much in a downward spiral since it started. He's going to be trying to regain whatever momentum he may have ever had. So going to be talking about that debate in hour two, so make sure you stick around. All right, Katrina, our President Joe Biden, who definitely will be the Democratic nominee for president will make that official at the Democratic National Convention next year in August. He said yesterday at a fundraiser in Boston that he would not be running for president if Donald Trump wasn't going to be the nominee on the GOP ticket. What do you make of that?
I actually believe him. I believe him. Biden is 81 years old, Areva. He's the oldest president we have ever had. I don't think that he would be running if he did not see that he was the only option to beat Donald Trump. He has positioned Trump as a threat to our democracy rather than his political opponent, which I believe that's the stance that most Americans do take. So he is capitalizing on that. I do believe that Biden probably would have not run for a second term if Trump was not running. But I'm also a little disappointed that there is no successor in place, if you know what I mean. I think Kamala would be in a better position to take on the presidency had we seen more from her and had their office had more synergy during this administration. And I think the American people will have more faith in her candidacy, whereas Biden wouldn't have to take on this particular position. But it's disappointing to see that. But I also understand his stance in saying that he wouldn't have run again because he's just not he's not there. I will say that.
Well, I think I have to disagree with you slightly, Katrina, on a couple points. One, I think Kamala Harris, our vice president, is as well positioned as any vice president can be, given the role of a vice president vis-a-vis the president. And then two, the structure of our presidential terms doesn't really lend itself to a one-term president. Because think about it, even if Kamala Harris and if you believe or others believe that she was poised and ready to be the president, essentially you have to start running for president like 5 years out. You got to have $1 billion to run for president effectively. So Joe Biden would have had to pretty much declare that he wasn't running in his beginning of his second year, which would have made him lame duck for all practical purposes. And he couldn't give the presidency to Kamala Harris. There would have had to have been a Democratic primary. And we know that there are lots of governors, Governor Wes Moore of Maryland, Governor Gavin Newsom of California, Governor Pritzker of Illinois. There are a number of governors who we know are likely to throw their hats into the ring whenever there is a Democratic primary. So just structurally, I don't know that we could have been positioned in a way to have someone else run other than our incumbent because of the way our political system works. You would not want Biden in year 2 saying, I'm not running, have at it, Democrats, and that ugly, nasty primary process that we know would have ensued. And then where would that have put the president in terms of all the important legislation that he's been able to get done because he was still, engaged, he was still active. So I don't know, Dante, this is a difficult question. I hear a lot of people saying they wish Biden would step aside. But again, I don't think they're thinking about the structure of our system. It doesn't lend itself to you just stepping aside.
Can I clarify those?
Go ahead, absolutely.
Let me clarify, Reba. I don't mean, I understand the complexity of the VP position. I understand the role that she is to serve. What I'm talking about is the American people's perception of VP Harris at this point. To your point, Biden could not come out the second year and say, hey, this is my last time at the rodeo. Y'all get somebody else ready in queue. No, he couldn't say that. But there are ways to do that. There are ways to put Kamala on some of the issues that are very important to your leading voter base. There are ways to highlight her leadership that would have put her in a position to start raising money, even if it wasn't outright, even if it wasn't her announcing that she would be seeking the presidency in the next term. There are ways to put her in a position.
But are you talking about for 24, Katrina? Because again, Biden, because he's not a dictator and not a king, he can't appoint Kamala the next president. So once he says he's not running.
I'm saying in the way that the administration demonstrates synergy between the president and the vice president to give the American people confidence in her leadership because what happens is, she's already Black, she's already a woman, and she's already perceived to be in the election process. She was perceived to be a token for Biden, but she is very capable, very competent. She could be the president of the United States. However, the American people do not have that faith in her because of the way that this administration has run.
But I also think,
okay.
Katrina,
Well, go ahead, jump in, Dante. Let me just say I disagree with you on that too. I think there people have a lot of faith in her, but again, I'm talking about the structure that our government has in terms of how you run for president and the amount of money and time to get someone in that position. But go ahead, Dante.
Well, I agree with you, Areva, because I don't think we've seen any type of handoff or any type of anticipated handoff by a president in their first term to their vice president. But I also think we can't undervalue or overstate the weight that sexism or misogyny plays or anti-Blackness. And the perception that Katrina spoke about, that you spoke about, is a widespread perception. But whenever I see interviews critiquing her, her wins or the things, or her time in office, and critiquing all the things that she's done or not done, no one can point to specific things that she's done to create the negative perception that we see happening or pervading across the country. There are always critiques about her character, but nothing specific. And so I think that role has been defined historically by white men. That is who people in this country are used to seeing in that role. We've never had a Black woman, and I think that people are incredibly harsh when it comes to her. But that's a whole other topic.
No, you're right. You're right. And to your point, Dante, if you stack up what she's done in the 2 years that she's been vice president against people like Mike Pence, against other vice presidents, she is head and shoulders above many of our white male vice presidents. But it is that misogynoir that continues to plague her. But again, I'm talking about our structure. One-term presidents aren't really a part of our system because, one, you don't get enough time in one term to get enough legislation passed. And then if you lose your House or your Senate, then you're even crippled further. So a lot of folks who were clamoring for Joe Biden to be a one-term, I just don't think they're thinking through logistically what that would have looked like. I mean, a knockdown, drag-out primary between Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Pritzker, Westmore probably would have left us so crippled at the polls. It would have probably opened the door for Donald Trump to walk right in. So lots of complexities when you talk about running for president. Okay, hold that thought, Katrina. Hold that thought. When we come forward, I'll let you finish that point. We'll continue this conversation. It's an interesting conversation and one I've been wanting to have, as people keep saying, how come we can't get someone to replace Biden? People to this day want to replace Biden like today, like, December of 2023, and the election is in less than 11 months. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Areva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Areva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the voice of reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
We are back and we are tracking today's breaking and trending news. And in hour two, we're going to be talking about that Republican debate amongst the four candidates who are still standing, who are wanting to and hoping to be the nominee for the GOP ticket for president in the next year's presidential election. The leader of the GOP party at this time, Donald Trump, will not be participating in the fourth debate, as he has not participated in any of the debates and has called on the RNC, in fact, to cancel the debates, saying they're just pretty much a waste of time, and has questioned or raised doubts about whether he will even participate in general election debates against Joe Biden. But, okay, Katrina, we're having this conversation about those folks who still to this day, December of 2023, are harping and whining and, still saying, how come we can't get a different candidate other than Joe Biden? And, we're just trying to educate folks about the political process, the heavy lift of running for president, the amount of money, the amount of organization, et cetera. Go ahead. You wanted to make another point on this.
No, I just wanted to make it clean that I am pro VP Harris. I mean, had it not been for her, we wouldn't have the Inflation Reduction Act, we wouldn't have the American Rescue Plan, we wouldn't have some of the judges that we have now. She has done an excellent job in leadership. I just feel like the American people were ready and primed to see this, because I don't feel like Joe Biden was elected because we had all the faith in his leadership. I believe we did that because we didn't want to see Trump reelected. And that's really where the position that we're in right now. If we create another storm, just like you were saying, there are so many people who will be prime contenders in a Democratic primary at this point, it would defeat us in the long run. And I think that's where Joe's decision has come from. He's like, I wouldn't run again if Trump wasn't running again. That's the very reason why he would run again, is because it would be a total storm if he did not run again and Trump would be the victor.
Yeah, and there is a scenario, I guess, under which, say, if Donald Trump had not run, that Joe Biden would have felt comfortable, although, Donald Trump is such a snake in the grass. Even if he had not declared when he declared, he, may have waited until the 11th hour, and the Republicans love him so much, they would have, still maybe went to their convention, bent the rules, broke the rules, and still nominated him. But let's imagine a scenario, maybe Donald Trump is incapacitated in some way and incapable of running, right? And there has been an open, I just say incapacitated. We don't know what that looks like, or whatever that is. But there have been an open GOP primary, like we're witnessing with Chris Christie and Nikki Haley and, Tim Scott before he dropped out, and, the other candidates. Then an open Democratic primary, like what we're going to have in 28, right? In 28, no matter who wins, Biden or Trump, hopefully it's over for Trump. Trump loses. Now, there's nothing that will prevent him in 28 from running again. Under our Constitution, you can run for president as many times as you choose to, and you can lose and keep running. But let's assume by 28, even he's tired. We're going to have a big, nasty, good Democratic primary, which is what we should have, right? And then the GOP is going to have a big, nasty GOP primary. And from those two sides, a president will emerge. So I just think it's important that those of us, who understand this process, help folks understand why in this moment, though, with Donald Trump as the leader of the Republican Party, how risky it would have been for Joe Biden to not run, because he would have had to make that announcement realistically so early to give anyone in the Democratic Party an opportunity to build the kind of money and war chest and operation that you need to run for president. This is no joke, which is why we saw our vice president drop out of the last presidential campaign, and that's why we've seen Tim Scott drop out on the GOP side. If you can't raise money, and I mean hand over fist money, you will not be a contender for president. That's why Nikki Haley is, failing. She may be in second place, but she's in a distant second place because the amount of money that she's raising pales in comparison to what Donald Trump is raising. Go ahead, Dante. You want to jump in?
Well, I was just going to add to that, too. She has a very raised and pronounced national profile. And that's true for people like Chris Christie, too, who have been on the national scene for a while. And so I'm here in California, and I know of Governor Gavin Newsom. He was the mayor of San Francisco. He has a pretty prominent profile over on this coast. But I'm not sure nationally how many people are aware of his profile, of his record as governor. And that's the same for even someone like Moore. And so I think in this moment, what we see are people who are trying to increase their popularity, increase their profile in terms of becoming nationally known, and they will be ready for 2028. But in terms of Biden in this moment, him admitting that he's running again because of Donald Trump, he didn't see anyone with a raised national profile that would be able to take on Donald Trump. And I think, to Katrina's point, he was being very honest.
No, absolutely. And, we have to applaud him because at 81, I know there are lots of other things he'd like to be doing, like hanging out with his grandkids and spending time with his wife. We know the job of presidency ages everyone. We just look at Barack Obama. He's exhibit A, right? I mean, he went in there looking youthful, black hair, handsome, and he comes out looking like a grandpa on the other side. I mean, it's a job that just stresses. I mean, you're carrying the weight of the world on you. You're making world decisions. One wrong decision and we could all be, vapor, right? So we can't underestimate the weight of the responsibility on our president. And you are so right too, Dante, about that name recognition. That is golden. That is priceless. And Gavin Newsom, yes, to political types and to folks on the West Coast, they know him. But if I call my friends in St. Louis, one or two of them may have heard his name, but a lot of them will say, no, who's that? So he does not have that name recognition yet. Obviously, Wes Moore, yes, those of us in politics know who Wes Moore is, but I can ask 5 people here in California. They won't know who Wes Moore is. In fact, I just had this conversation with someone about, Maryland having its first African-American governor. And they were like, really? So they didn't even know he had been elected governor because, again, most folks aren't checking for politicians outside of their own state. Many aren't checking for those in their, state that they live in. So, again, one of the things that Kamala Harris will have over all of these candidates in 28 is that national name recognition. Now, with that comes a lot of folks who won't like her, but there are hordes and hordes and millions and millions and millions of people who do like her. And if you don't have to spend your money trying to just get your name out there, that gives you a competitive advantage that your other other candidates won't have. And when she ran for president, Vice President Harris ran her own presidential campaign, she was running as a senator from California. She didn't have national name recognition at that time. And she ran into some of the same issues that other candidates without that run into, which is trying to convince someone to give you money that you can cross that finish line. And we see how difficult that is, which is why these GOP, the first debate they had 10 or 11 folks on that stage, 9 or 10, and now it's down to 4 people. And Chris Christie is under tremendous pressure to drop out. Vivek Ramaswamy seems to just be there hoping that Trump gives him some job, because all he does is praise his opponent. Who runs for office? Katrina, you've run for office. Have you ever run for office against your opponent and you spend all your money and time praising your opponent?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. But that, I mean,
so
that's
we know he's not a serious candidate. He's not trying to be. He's not trying to be president. And I think Chris Christie is there to try to help save the democracy and remind us about how dangerous Trump is. And he's one of the few Republicans, Liz Cheney now, one of them, but who's willing to take Trump on and call him on the carpet. And that's probably why the RNC and others want him to drop out, is because, he keeps reminding everyone about how dangerous Donald Trump is. And, Ron DeSantis was supposed to be the Trump 2.0, but what the MAGA crowd has said, we don't need you 2.0. We got the real deal here. So why do we want? We don't need an impersonator of Donald Trump when we can have Donald Trump himself. So it's going to be interesting. Thank you so much, Dante, for joining today. Thank you so much, Katrina. Always good to be with both of you. Lots going on in politics tonight. Obviously, that debate has already started. Lots of analysis all night tonight about the GOP debate. Again, some folks question whether it has any meaning beyond just these folks getting some airtime on a small cable network. But we're going to talk about it in an hour or two, so make sure you stick around more when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580.
We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like your style, dog.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. We've got a lot to talk about.
Race.